Alone in the Dark also comes out in March. It's coming out around March 20th. And it is, if you don't know what Alone in the Dark is, it's essentially the birthplace of any and all survival horrors. It is the inspiration for Resident Evil. Unfortunately, the series has not had the graces of the success that Resident Evil has had, and it has had a lot of ups and downs. This potentially looks like a return to form, and it might be the saving grace for the series if it does well. There's a couple things that for me specifically I'm excited about. One, I do like the cast choice. I think they're excellent, and unfortunately the animation work and the facial animation stuff looks a little lower budget than you would want nowadays, but at the same time it's a series that has failed to really hold on, and you can understand that some of its shortcomings, as long as the puzzles and survival horror elements as well as just the horror in general can hold up, this can really be an amazing game. We just will have to see kind of like how it goes when it comes out. And again, that comes out March 20th. If you're excited like I am with this one, I definitely want to hear your opinion on it. And if you've played the other ones, like I think the last one I played was that one on PS3 where you were like, it had like really crazy like fire animations and a really weird gameplay, and you can like drive through the city, and it was like a disaster movie kind of feel. That's the last one I played, so I'm excited to see them going back to their roots and really trying to capture what Resident Evil has held on to so strongly. Dogma 2, I don't know why I have such a hard time saying that, comes out March 22nd, and it's probably my most anticipated game of the month, or maybe the first half of this year. The first Dragon's Dogma or even Dark Arisen pretty much were these very unique feeling, almost like they were trying to capture the magic of, I would say, Monster Hunter, but normalize it and almost Americanize it a bit. It is quite the unique experience, and even with all the gameplay and the modes and the way things move, and even just I think in a moment there you saw how he just blew up the river, like that's kind of crazy. And the fact that one of the best things about it was that you can like climb the enemies and fight them in all these different ways. If you were fighting like a griffin, you would jump onto them as it would take off, and you'd be slashing at it or hitting it with your magic or whatever, and they might throw you off. And your pawns are very useful, and they can all be unique because they don't just have to be yours, they can also be ones that were made by other players. So this is definitely a big game for me. I'm excited to see what happens, and I would quite honestly be surprised if this game turns out to be a failure. So we'll see how it is when it comes out. Again, that comes out on March 22nd, but this is definitely my most anticipated game of the month, that's for sure. Star Wars Collection comes out on March 14th. There's a couple new add-ons that I'm quite excited for. First and foremost, with the first game, they're adding Jabba's Palace, which is kind of cool. And the second game, we're getting Cloud City, Harbor, Citadel, and Arena all being added, as well as for a few more heroes, which Asajj Ventress, and I hope I said her name right, and Kit Fisto. If you don't know, there's always these single player modes. They're pretty great. In the first game, you just have the regular campaign, which is specific battles, throughout history that had to do specifically with episodes 1 through 6. These games came out before the new movies came out, so you are not going to see any of that kind of stuff. There's also in the second game, the campaign mode, you're essentially joining the elite stormtroopers, 501 specifically, that are under Darth Vader during his rise. Then you also have the best mode that anyone probably who's ever played any of these games single player is going to be Galactic Conquest. It pretty much means you get to take over the entire galaxy in your way, in what planets, with what units, etc. It's pretty much just like what a lot of strategy games offer. Then you also have full multiplayer support in this, which obviously if you have the original versions on PC or whatever, you have access to multiplayer nowadays due to certain mods and things like that. But with this, they're officially bringing it back with full multiplayer support up to 64 players. There is no crossplay, so depending on what system you get it on, if you have on PlayStation, you have PS4, PS5 can crossplay. On Xbox, Xbox One, Xbox One X and the Series can crossplay, and PC you can essentially just play with anybody else on PC. Has a variety of classes, weapons, and vehicles, all based on multiple Star Wars properties between episodes 1 through 6. And for the first time, which is again another special thing with this collection, you can play Hero Assault at all locations, and that was not an option in the original game, and that's kind of a big deal. And for me, it's something I'm pretty excited for, and this is one of my top anticipated ones for March. South Park Snow Day. This isn't really like top of the list for me, and I don't think it's top of the list for most people, but this genuinely looks like it's going to be a fun game. It's silly. It's right up the alley if you played any of the other South Park games. They get the humor, they understand the community, and they definitely are applying that to the game itself. It looks a little janky though, to be honest, and everything I've seen, it's not like I'm not looking at this as like, oh, this is a must buy. But if you genuinely like South Park's humor, this type of multiplayer silly gameplay most likely is going to be up your alley. And also, it's the cheapest game on this entire list besides the Star Wars Battlefront Classic, but that's only if you have the previous Star Wars Battlefront games. Then you can get that at a at a much higher discount. But overall, this game does look interesting. It looks fun. It looks like it will be able to grab your attention. We'll just actually see if it has any longevity and how much of the humor is really in it as you're playing the overall multiplayer experience, because we don't know if it's just going to be like openings or occasional moments you might see, cutscenes or whatever, or if it's really just going to be South Park style with mostly just multiplayer gameplay. So again, that comes out March 26th, so it's after everything else essentially on this list. It is the last game to almost come out of the month. So if it's not on your list now, or you're already picking up any of the games on this list, you might be skipping this one. But if you're not, and you are excited, definitely let me know. And also, if you do play it, I'm going to be looking up to see how people review this one, because it looks funny and like a good time. Now, Rise of the Ronin, this one looks to be probably one of the biggest games that this company has ever made. We know they've made stuff like Neo, and we know that they're very good at making these type of action games, but I think this is their first true attempt at a full-fledged open world experience that's very akin to kind of like Assassin's Creed and those style of games, but with also like the adaptation of their combat and world building and overall just style. It looks very interesting, and it definitely for me came out completely out of left field. I knew this game was announced, but when they actually showed it off, I was genuinely surprised at what I saw, and I am excited to see more. This one isn't really on the top of my list, only because like I need to see more. I need to see when this one comes out, what people actually start talking about it, if it actually is like, if the Dark Souls Neo style systems really apply well to the open world formula, and if it can keep its interest without it just being a slog to get through, because not only is it that style of gameplay where like you have to be dedicated and learn and master, but then it's also open world where you have all these side stuff, and you might have collection missions, and you have all these different enemy types, hopefully. So we shall see. So far, this one is definitely top of the list of what I would expect to be probably some of the best games of March, and it's definitely on my list of like top 5 that I think would be most likely safe bet to play. But for me, I am just a little, stepping a little back on this one and just letting it come out and really see what the general opinion is with it. But again, even in the gameplay, you can see in the background though, this looks badass. So it's kind of hard to say. You can't be like, oh, this doesn't look cool. Definitely looks cool. So again, that comes out March 22nd, which is actually the same day as Dragon's Dogma. So I can tell you, if I'm going to have access to any of these games, it is most likely going to be Dragon's Dogma, not this one. Hey guys. So that's my overall top 5 games that I'm looking forward to, and also I do believe that might be the most worth to play this month for March. I don't really have a specific order of what I would pick one or the other. I just know that for the most part, these are just the pretty much highest overall value looking games to me, with a lot of backing behind it. In some cases, maybe the Star Wars Battlefront Classic is the least valuable, since it is technically just a reskin and some updated stuff so that it can work multiplayer wise nowadays. So we'll see if that one's really worth it. But overall, I would say that this is a pretty stacked month, and specifically it's a really stacked week. If you are getting any more than one of these games, you're looking at the 14th to the 26th of essentially all 5 of these coming out. And specifically, Alone in the Dark, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Rise of the Ronin are all coming out in a 2-day period. And then you're finishing off 4 days later from Rise of the Ronin and Dragon Dogma's time to South Park Snow Day. You really don't have much time, and I don't think most people are getting all of these games at the same time. Most likely you're picking up your favorite. For me, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get access to Dragon's Dogma 2. That is probably the number one that I definitely want to be playing, and I would love to review. Rise of the Ronin, again, I'm just going to watch out for that one, and we'll see how that one goes. South Park Snow Day, also going to watch out for that one and see if it's really like worth, even though it's not a full price game, it still doesn't look like it has longevity. So it looks like it could be a fun, good, memeable game for a short period of time, and then you might move on. But I could be wrong, and I would love to be wrong. And Alone in the Dark, it's going to be hit or miss. It's either going to work or it's going to fail, and we're going to find out. So that one is definitely also just a watch overall for me. And then Star Wars Battlefront Classic, back to that one. That one's really just, if you love them, you know why you want that one. You just have to have loved those Battlefront games to want to pick this up, or have always heard your friends or someone else talking about it, and now you can finally play it and even play with other people online. All of these, I am specifically talking about the PC version, but every one of these games does seem to have multiple systems. Star Wars Battlefront is coming even to Nintendo Switch and everything else. Alone in the Dark, I believe, is only coming to next-gen consoles as well as PC. Dragon's Dogma 2 is also next-gen only and PC. Rise of the Ronin is only PS5. And South Park Snow Day, I do believe, is coming to Nintendo Switch and everything else as well. So you can pretty much play most of these on anything you have, except for Rise of the Ronin. That's the only one that you're going to be limited to just having a PS5, so keep that in mind. Anyway, thanks guys. I had fun putting this one together like always. Look out for more content this week. And I also have something special coming out either the end of this week or the end of next week, depending on how long it takes for me to make. But it is something I've been thinking of and really putting my mind towards, and I hope you enjoy it. Bye guys.